All right, go ahead.
All right, so let's first go over. So each connectivity reading is taken from a probe on top of each boiler. And that conduit is coming in, I believe this is the conduit coming in for that, or that's the water meter. This is the blowdown power, this is the conduit for the connectivity probes, this is your water meter coming into the controller. This also tells you how many gallons, since it's been reset from the water meter that's behind us, behind the soffiter. Alright, let's first go into the actual blowdown itself and how it's programmed to do the blowdown. So system connectivity. So at this point, our set point for blowdown right now, based on the way the system's currently running, we have it at 2800 microsiemens. The high alarm is 3500. Low alarm. This is calibrated to neutralize. That is a great question. We do run the neutralized connectivity right now there. All right, so the sample interval, what that means is every 15 minutes, the boiler or the controller is going to tell the blowdown, surface blowdown valve to open up, and it's going to take a sample, and it's going to sample for 10 seconds. It's going to let it go blow down for 10 seconds, and then it's going to hold it for 15 seconds and take a reading. And at that point in time, it's going to say, hey, am I high or am I low? And if I'm high, I'm going to blow down for 1 minute. Do a surface blow for 1 minute. And then 15 minutes later, it's going to check it again. If it's going to do that 15-second interval, it's going to hold it for 10 seconds to take the reading. And then either, hey, if I'm not too high, I'm not going to blow down anymore. Does that make sense? For every 15 minutes, it's going to be doing something. And after that 15-minute reading, it's gonna either hold it, blow down longer, or not blow down. And that is changeable. If we find that, hey, it's not keeping up with that 15-minute interval, then we can make those adjustments. And you can go to set points in the controller, and you can go sample interval and change it right here in this screen, or the sample duration as well. Those are all changed. Also, your set point for the connectivity set point, that is there too. I do want to check and make sure. Something else you got to pay attention to is each system is for each boiler, 1, 2, and 3. So if you make a change in system 1, it doesn't change it for boilers 2 and 3. You still have to go in and check it and make sure. See, like this one, we must have been messing with it. This one is set for 30 seconds. The sample interval is for 30 seconds instead of 15 seconds. So just to keep it the same, I'm going to go into set points.
And see, I changed that. I changed that when we were having the issues with blowing down and the connectivity wasn't matching right.
Yeah.
So originally it was, and remember we were sticking the actuator.
Oh, the actuator
was getting frozen, yeah, and and it was because I was thinking, well, it was the sample time, the amount of blowdowns that we were going through on that when it went to blow down, I was trying to see if did it need to blow down, because I think it originally was set for like 15 minutes, and I was like, what, we shouldn't have to blow. Do we need to blow down for 15 minutes?
Right.
And then I think, and then take a sample for like 5 minutes. We should have to sit there for 5 minutes to take a sample. Or
yeah, it was like always blowing down.
Yeah, it was like always blowing down. So I changed that one as like a experiment as to the one that you had already.
Okay.
Maybe the third one is going to be probably what you set it at. Now you can look at that duration on that time.
This is, I don't even, this boiler 3.
I think boiler
offline, I don't even, this is all the defaults in here for this one. Yeah, this is a 3500 one, yeah.
So yours was
Find
Sample for 15. Well, that one's sample for 15.
This was just whatever was defaulted in the controller.
Oh, okay.
Has no sample interval. So it never was. This one was never set up.
Yeah. So the other one, like you have it set. Number 2, like go to number 2. That's what I think. That's the one. That's the one you originally set.
Right.
So like every 30 seconds you have it. So what I was saying was, I thought maybe the actuator always actuating every 30 seconds, like, and then a minute, and then a minute, and then 30 seconds, and then a minute, and then a minute. I thought it was too much with that actuator that was up there, and it was causing it to like get cockeyed and hang up. Yeah. So I changed the other one to a longer, where they had to wait 15 minutes, and then it only sampled for a smaller time, smaller blowdown time. And then I wanted to see if that helped, like if that kept us up with the logs. It was just an experimental thing. Because I know we're just setting this thing up to run right, so I was.
I like the. You think the 30-minute hold was good on boiler 2?
30-minute hold for blowdown?
No, that's a sample. That's number 1.
Every 30 minutes. Okay. Instead of 4 times an hour, you're doing twice an hour.
Well, if you go to, that's number 2. That's every 30 minutes. It blows down for 30 seconds. And then it holds it for a minute, and then if it's high, it'll blow down for a whole nother 2 minutes.
Yeah, I actually like this.
That's not very long to blow down, though. I mean, if you got high conductivity, it's going to take longer 2 minutes for the.
Well, but it's twice an hour for 2 minutes straight.
That, and remember, boiler 1, there was a problem with the makeup water valve, so it was blowing down too fast, or too much. And the valve wasn't opening, so he was manually filling boiler 1. I forget what was going on at that point in time. I think it might have been other thing. I think the softener thing might have been an issue too at the time. Who knows if we would have caught that in time, when it was blocking all that and not feeding. Correct.
But
correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, do we want to go with these settings, or do we want to go with the 15-minute settings? I guess is the question.
I might just still be able to play it by ear. We haven't had the boiler, and 2's down again, and it won't be on again, so we won't be able to check this scenario again. And right now we're manually blowing down because of that actuator keeps getting hung up. So technically, all this stuff is like, hearsay until we get these actuators, if we are.
And the main point of the video too is just so the guys know what's going on. In the milliamp signals, these settings, I believe, are just for the tank level alarms and stuff like that. If you, like the low alarms at 20 gallons, if they wanted to change it to 55 or something like that, because that's when they got an order, we can do that too. You can look at history too. I think you can go into system 1 and you can look at like sensor history, connectivity, start, and then this is like, you can pick like the date. So you can put, what's today? Today is
01/21. Yeah, that's cool. 1 and then 21. And that'll take us all the way from the 1st till now, probably. Oh, it's calculating. Yeah, that's cool.
But this is going from
10 days.
First, it's doing 10 days, so it'll pull a connectivity graph of, and say you want to, hey, what happened on this day? If something happened, you can pull it up on a controller, or you can look at the online dashboard, which is another video we should do too.
Cool.
So,
all right.
How long this takes?
You can back out of it and move on. We get the gist. We get the gist of it, yeah.
Let's go over doing a calibration. So say you come and the sample you got over there was way off. And I'm talking like within 300 microsiemens off. You know, if it's 200 or whatever, that's okay. But anything really more than 500 or 300, 500 off from the reading you got in the logbook is where I want you guys to come in and be able to come into the controller. And so you can go to calibration for system 1, connectivity, calibrate, and you literally can just type in what you got on there. Now something important to do is if it hasn't been, what do I call this? It hasn't been blowing down, then you can go and manually open up the relay. Let's go over that first. So, if I know the blowdown, first step, if the connectivity reading is way off than what you got, let's just say, we'll do it on boiler 3 because it's not running right now. Let's just say we got 516 instead of 116. So relays, I want to go in to boiler 3, so blowdown number 3. I want to go and turn that to hand on. I want it to blow down for a little bit to get a good relative sample on that connectivity probe that's on top of the boiler.
Now, okay. Now, if you do that, are you still stuck in the same parameters as what's written down in there where even though you're turning it hand on, is it gonna hold for a minute like you had on the setup? So you're gonna have to wait to actually, when you go back to the home screen to see the connectivity, does it have to go through that whole process, or is this manually override everything to where as soon as you turn this off and you go back to that home screen, it shows the connectivity, that is the connectivity?
Yes, unless it's in the middle of doing its whole operation, it's doing an interval countdown, then you know it just did it. So let's.
Oh, so that interval countdown is up on that main screen. So do you want to make? What do you want? You want to make sure that's that interval set.
See, this one, boiler one's in the interval stage right now, so you don't have to do that manual opening of the valve because it just did it, right? So it's doing the hold right now, but this one, the interval's at 0, so I know that I have to open the valve up to get a fresh relative sample to what you just took. Again, it doesn't got to be perfect. I'm looking for, hey, you got 3,000, this says 1,000, we got a problem, right? Or hey, the big problem is if it's not blowing down and it should be. If it's high, then we definitely want to make sure that we change it. So now we know that we opened the valve, or it just did an interval, so we know that it has a fresh sample on the probe on top. So now we can go to run setup. We're going to go whatever boiler that is off or you're doing the calibration for. We're going to do boiler 3 because that one's offline right now. And so we want to do so system connectivity does all the set points, but what we're doing is we want to do a calibration on the system connectivity. So that was like 4 clicks there on the video. So now you're in the calibration mode, and now you can put in one. It's probably, well, we were just going to do an example 5, 0, 5, 1, 5, exit. Okay. Now this also tells you how far off it is from the original number. It's just a reference to look at. So now we should be able to go back to the home screen. Sorry. So now it jumped up a little bit to 551. And again, we want to just keep it as close as possible. We got a huge differential, and that's where we need to be really concerned on it. But I want you guys to be able to do those calibrations to really help fine tune it. The more we calibrate it, the more accurate we get it, the easier it should be and run. We don't have to do that as much as the system starts to age and all of that.
So, and you can go back to that screen where it said reset to 0. And that will actually tell you what the conductivity meter is reading right at that point, right? Or it zeroes it out, or is it zeroes it to a point where it's giving you a true reading of what that probe is giving you right now?
Correct. So here's a troubleshooting tip. If for some reason that particular probe will just not calibrate, you can do what's called a reset to zero. And what you have to do though is, turn off the valve at the boiler, take the probe out, dry it off, clean it, and you're going to reset it to zero, right? Because in the air it should read zero. And then put it back in and do another calibration. That's what the reset to zero is.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's just if it's just way off, way off calibration, and you do a 1 point and just won't get there, then at that point you got to take it out, clean it, do a calibration to zero, and start from scratch. Now if that doesn't work, it's still messing up. You either got a wiring issue or you actually need a new probe. And those probes are good for probably about a year to 2 years you're going to get out of them, depending on the usage of the boiler and the size.